Hello and welcome to the Miscast table. Today we are having a podcast and we have Måns and Jonas with me today. How are you doing, Måns?
I'm great. I was at a big party last night, so I'm feeling a bit tired today, but otherwise I'm doing fine.
The electric car almost died on the way here.
Yeah, I did. It was 38 degrees below freezing, and my electric car did not like that. So.
And we could rapidly mention that's also why Martin isn't here today, because it's so cold, so he had the shower had frozen.
Yeah, the pipes froze and he couldn't shower. So he had to fix that.
Jonas?
One of the upsides of living in the northern parts of Sweden.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm good. Also feeling a bit of the cold. Planned on going out skiing, but wasn't really the weather for it.
Oh, a bit too cold.
Yeah.
I wanted to take a quick mention and say that welcome, this is our podcast. We have so many new viewers, so I reckon that not everybody have seen the podcast.
Probably not.
And we are also trying out something a little bit different today. We are discussing the latest battle report. So we feel that we want to become better at the game. And the comments that we get from our video is so valuable that we want to really take it in, discuss the rules that we have done wrong, why they are wrong or right, so that we can learn and stop doing the mistakes, and also giving the opportunity to you as viewers to become better at the game with us.
Yeah. So we're gonna go through a bit of the comments, but the old world is a complex game, like 8th edition was. Like we have played 8th edition for years, and we still make mistakes in almost every game. Like it's really hard to do a perfect game.
Yeah, and I think that this kind of podcast where we discuss the rules in detail is fine to do at 8th edition too, even if we have played in a long time. Now it's extra helpful because old world is so new that we can go into the nitty-bitty things. So if you don't like to discuss the rules in detail, sorry, but this is gonna be one of those episodes where we're gonna try to go into the nitty-bitty details on this is why and this is why not.
This is what we did wrong, and this is how it's supposed to work. And stuff like that.
Because we all dream about the perfect game that actually playing the game correctly.
Yeah. But to add to that as well, when we go through the battle reports, it could be an ample opportunity to discuss some tactics as well. Yeah. Like perhaps not a rules mistake, but a tactical mistake, and that's plenty to learn from as well.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like it's harder to play a perfect game when you are filming.
Of course.
Because filming takes away your attention from parts of the game. Like you still have to keep like a good flow going, and it can take like 8 hours and all of that. Yeah. So you have a bit of a handicap when you are filming. But
I don't like excuses.
No,
we're gonna play the perfect game on camera. We are. Yeah. But maybe not. Maybe not tomorrow.
I got stuck in your microphone cable.
Yeah, we have a super studio.
Yeah, but to add, one of the upsides of playing on camera is the feedback that you get from the community, because like I think I've learned so much from reading the comments, and at times people on YouTube might be like feeling like this is criticism. I really don't feel like it is. No. And it's super fine to make mistakes as long as you don't repeat them, and that's exactly what the comments help with. Like you did this and this is wrong according to the rules, and then we can adapt and learn from it.
Yeah. But one thing about that, we're repeating the mistakes. Usually when we're recording this, we have already recorded a battle report that we are gonna release. Yeah. And that might have some of the mistakes that we got feedback on this latest one.
Yeah,
so
that's another part that I feel that we can give to the viewers with this podcast. We can give some behind the scenes what it actually is that we are doing, and how, like, one of the things that maybe not everybody knows, that everybody have ordinary jobs. We have kids and families, and we have to make things work. So we have to do some picking when we do videos and how long they can be and such.
Yeah. But I don't think people believe that we can support ourselves doing this. That would be a huge dream, but with like 2,300 subscribers, that's it's gonna be a lot of noodles.
Not noodles, but it's I like knowing things about like Games Workshop, the business.
Yeah.
And when I didn't be part of this channel, I know nothing about YouTube, how the algorithm works, how comments makes things better. And frankly, I don't really care now either. But it's fun to see when you have the channel, you can see statistics and how everything is going, and it's interesting. And we can have some sprinkle on some information. Probably someone is curious about it.
Yeah, and feel free to ask about it. If there's anything we can provide insight on, do post it in the comments.
And the latest battle report we played, that was that me and Jonas that played? We played Empire against High Elves. Yeah,
or
that was the matchup.
What are they called now? Of the realm.
The High Elf Realms.
High Elf Realms.
Called. Yeah.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, we are. This is also a kind of a bro update, or what you call it. We don't often have to spend time with each other, except when we play Warhammer.
Yeah.
So we don't actually know what we have done, except that. So I would like to know: do Jonas, do you have something on the painting table, or have you done something cool?
I'm super happy that I finally invested in an airbrush.
Yeah.
It's such a difference. Like, I never knew how I could manage to paint without it.
Yeah. I've been nagging you for years to get an airbrush. And
so I got my Demon Army ready for the Fallen tournament. I'm working on my Bretonia. I'm a bit salty about not getting the models since last week because I planned on bringing them to Yumio for playing there, and I have like 3 weeks to finish them.
Yeah, it took like you got them like 2 weeks after release, right? It took that long before you got them.
The release was the 20th of January, and I got them like 4 days ago.
Yeah.
There's been some serious supply chain issue both in Europe, like in Germany. There's Germany and France. There have been some supply issues, and I also think that Games Workshop just in general have had a busy time with this release.
Yeah,
and I bet there are people. I kind of know that people in the States as well have had some issues with deliveries.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we ordered both from a local game store and from Games Workshop after this stuff sold out from a local game store. And from a local game store, we got it like 2-3 days after release, but Games Workshop was like 2 weeks.
Yeah. So support your friendly local game stores.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is good time. And Måns, have you been painting anything?
I have been painting, but I've been away. I've been abroad in Norway for about a week, and I brought with me the big box of Tomb Kings. So I've been gluing Tomb Kings at the hotel. So I'm about halfway done with the box, maybe. So that's what I'm currently doing. But I'm also painting some High Elves for the tournament in Umeå. There's the first Old World tournament that we are going to, or at least me and Jonas, and that's the first weekend of March, I believe. Yeah. So I have some stuff I need to paint before that.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun to see how Old World works in a tournament setting. Looking forward to having comments on that. I want to touch, when I remember this, that we had a comment like today or yesterday from the first podcast. So someone listened to an old podcast and made a comment, and what he discussed and told us about was that he was a player that had been playing the game Total War, Warhammer.
Yeah.
And he hadn't played any miniatures, and we had a question: how will they feel when they come to Old World? And he wrote down a big comment on how some things that he experienced, and one of the things that he was so sad about is he can't buy anything.
Yeah,
he can't get any more. Yeah, everything is sold out, so it was sad, very to see that, okay, here's a new player coming in, and it's probably one of the things that Games Workshop really hoped for, that people who played the video game would come in and want to play with the figures, and he can't buy anything.
No. That is a bit of a problem, especially with the pre-release that sold out. But now I think it's back in order, back in stock again. But not only like the pre-release boxes, but all the stuff you can use for Old Worlds for the other factions that are played in AOS. Yeah. All that stuff also sold out.
Yeah. I kind of got with the fear of missing out on a rule book because I had the digital one. Yeah. And yesterday or the day before, the local store said, "Oh, we have 2 copies of the local." Went up in order. Well, so but we can head into the battle report. Like you said, it was High Elves. Oh no,
High elves.
High elves, but
High elven realms.
High elven realms.
Or something
And
like
High elves realms.
High elves realms and the empire.
We're gonna learn someday.
We're gonna learn.
Yeah.
And I wanted to first discuss the battle report itself. So when you made the army,
Yeah.
and you have played the list. We start with the high elves list. Were you happy with the list that you made?
I have to say that I was pretty happy. I used a lot of flying units, and I used dragons and the Frostheart Phoenix. And I think especially like the big monsters, the dragon, the Frostheart Phoenix, work really, really well. The only thing I had kind of a problem with was that I used spearmen, and I used quite a small block, and I didn't put any wizards or any stuff in it, and they just became like a liability. So you really have to, every unit you have in your army needs to have a purpose. And I think that was the big mistake, that the spearmen didn't really have a place. But otherwise, I think the monster hammer, the hero hammer, is
there.
Yeah, I think it is.
We're gonna say that this is a spoiler alert, because we're gonna spoil
Yeah.
everything that happened in that battle report. If you want to see the battle report, go and watch it. We are gonna discuss battle report 2 of Old World. But
might be some comments from 1 as well.
We're gonna, because we didn't do any episode on that, so we're gonna take some comments from the first one, but we're gonna take that in the last part of the video. So the list that you had made, what was the game plan?
The game plan was basically to use the big monsters and the flying units to position myself in such a way that I couldn't get charged. Basically use superior mobility to control the game. That was basically the plan. And I knew beforehand that Jonas was playing Empire.
Yep.
And they have a lot of artillery, cannons and stuff. And when you have 2 eagles, you have some fast cav, you can easily hunt that down. So the plan was to dominate the field in mobility. And in this game you can also use dragons and stuff and just win combat. You couldn't really do that in 8, not in the same way, because you could easily get just
bogged down.
Yeah, you could just lose in combat resolution because you don't disrupt.
And Jonas, game plan with the Empire list, what was your game plan?
I was kind of going for a defensive setup. I figured that Måns was trying to get in there with his flying units, so I tried to keep everything like close and tight together. But the scenario we were playing had a building in the midst of the playing field, and it was really hard to get around that, because I wanted to have line of sight for my war machines, but I couldn't really get a good spot or deployment for them other than the side, and then I felt like I'm gonna be super choked if I put everything in because it was that deployment area where you had 9 inches from the side, so I couldn't really get
it was
good
called
line of sight.
It was called Blood and Glory, but it's something else now, I think.
Yeah,
the one that you have 18 inches in and 9 from the side.
Yeah, and it was a really fun deployment or tactical choice. I don't think that I made the right one, but the Måns was lining up for this, his fast cav going one side, and then he had his main unit of Phoenix Guard coming the other side with the chariot, and then he had these flying units to support wherever they needed. Yeah. It was kind of a interesting setup from the start, I thought. But then when we started clashing, it became really evident that I had made a mistake at the beginning.
But I think that the train favored me. We had a big train piece in the middle, and I have 5 units with fly, and he is playing an artillery list, so I can hide most of my army from your shooting units. So I think the train definitely favored me.
We have had a discussion and feeling that this is kind of a little bit of a hero hammer, that having a big unit, having a big monster, I would say, a behemoth and a lord on it, is very powerful. And I think we saw that in the video too, that they are so hard to take down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, one of the things that I think is interesting in the old world is that now you can equip champions with medical items. Common medical items up to 25 points worth is normally the case that you can give them. And I think that there is still ample room to experiment with like mid-tier.
When going through the rule comments, I had to go and check all the rules and see where the comments went from, and I felt then that there's a lot of nuances and a lot of small things that we haven't touched on yet. So there's a lot of things to explore.
Yeah, like putting a hero on a big thing is like the cool thing to do. So people are gonna like find it out quite quickly that the cool thing I just did is really strong.
It is
but
strong.
I think that there are like it's a complex game, as we mentioned, and I think that there are plenty of builds that are gonna surprise us when we move into and learn more about the game.
I haven't seen it myself quite yet. How do you take them down?
Yeah.
Spoiler for the next battle report.
Yeah.
Monster Slayer is quite good.
There's a rule for that.
Yeah, there's a rule for that, and there's ways to get it through magical items and stuff. And I think that, like we saw in maybe 8th edition, the spell scrolls were like auto-include. And I wouldn't say that Monster Slayer is auto-include, but I think it will be quite prevalent. Because it's a very, very good way to take down monsters.
That's interesting. Well, as long there is a way to take the tactics down, that's the most fun part when you make a tournament list and you have to consider 4 or 5 opponents with different lists. That's my favorite list to do. The list that can handle all kind of both scenario wise and different opponents. And as long there is a balance and you can do one way, I think it's fine. You can have one really powerful thing, but if it's 1 or 2 things that can take it down, it's fine.
Yeah. It's kind of like in 8th edition. Like monsters are strong in 8th edition. It's just that cannons are so strong that they thwart them. So you have that like meta. If nobody brings war machines, then it's perfectly fine to bring a powerful mage on a dragon. But I think as soon as people start bringing the counter plays, then you are in a tough spot.
But I think it's mainly 3 things that makes monsters good now. One of them is that cannons are weaker. Like artillery is weaker in general. Yeah. Number 2 is that monsters now can actually disrupt because of the unit strength. And number 3, I think that a lot of things has gotten more attacks. Monsters have a bit more attacks. Heroes have a bit more attacks. And especially in the way that the game is set up now, when you only fight in the front row, extra attacks is more valuable than before. So I think those 3 things together make monsters good. Really good.
Do you have Jonas, do you have a VIP? Who was the most valuable unit?
Priest of Ulrich.
Priest of Ulrich.
I think that unit is super broken. Super fun to bring as well.
Yeah, I think
he had
that
a prayer where you couldn't stop the prayer, right?
Yeah, it's like a toolbox in of itself. He has 3 prayers. One makes it so that your infantry unit or cavalry unit as well gets an additional D3 on the charge distance. Yeah. That's super good. The other one is that you can make the enemy re-roll any natural rolls of 6s.
Yeah.
So you can counteract any poison attacks. I think it's super versatile. Killing blow. Monster Slayer.
Yeah.
And then lastly you have the ability which makes it so that every model in the unit that the priest has joined gets multiple wounds too.
That's also crazy.
That's
also crazy.
That's a very fun unit to bring when you make that balance list, so you can take different kind of opponent when you have that little toolbox. The high elf VIP.
It must be the dragon, of course the dragon. I did misplay it a little bit because I used the breath weapon after I had marched.
Yeah.
But I still, even considering that, he's so good. He's so good. Especially with Jonas' game plan, where he had a banner that multiplied the rank bonus he gets, and I charge him in the rear and disrupt him, and he gets basically no combat result.
Yeah, in my mind I was totally set on like, okay, monsters can't disrupt. They are just one model.
No.
And then you said, like, no, they can.
Unit
you
strength.
just need 5 unit strength, and they have unit strength 9.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Yeah.
Any regrets from the game? Like something at a point in the game that you felt like, I shouldn't have done that?
I made a triple charge with my Illyrian Reavers, my Sky Cutter, and my, what are they called? The other cavalry? Silver Helms. Into Jonas' 2 Demigryph Knights.
Yeah.
And I got my ass whooped. Like, I lost that so badly. So that entire side of my table just fell apart. you shouldn't underestimate a what is called armor. What is called
Demigryph Knights.
Yeah,
armor save.
Yeah, armor save.
2+
2+ armor save is incredibly strong. You have armor piercing on the lances, but you still roll.
Yeah.
You still have really good save, and that broke me.
That's hard when you meet a new unit to know how powerful or with what should I take this down.
Yeah.
And the change from not getting like 1 armor piercing for every strength point above 3, like 4 get -1. Like just having the static armor piercing or armor bane on the weapon isn't enough to deal with the 2+ armor save most of the time.
A 2+ armor save feels like it's very powerful in this game.
Because there's very few things that have, like I've seen armor piercing 3.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I've seen any higher than that. Not so far.
I heard that Beastman has a lot of opportunity to get armor piercing, but I haven't actually looked at the list, so I don't know why. But I know I just heard that.
They get it from Primal Fury.
Yeah.
So they roll a leadership test and then they can get various bonuses.
And the next battle report is Beastman.
Yeah.
So you get to see them in action.
That's a good tease too. So next Friday you get Beastman battle report.
Yeah. Beastman versus Dark Elves.
Beastman versus Dark Elves. Jonas, did you have any tactical things that you felt like you shouldn't have done? Or
I had 2 weak flank. I kind of relied on the cannon, being able to hold off the cannon and the eagle. But since the cannon blew itself up, then I had a detachment of 10 crossbowmen. They crumbled.
Yeah, and my chariot just had a straight Hong Kong. He just went straight ahead.
It needs to be said that it wasn't your eagle that broke them.
No, it wasn't.
Worst eagle in the game.
But when we're talking about like hero hammer, the eagle was horrible. I was so disappointed with it afterwards. But when we talk about like hero hammer, and usually we talk about like monsters and stuff, but you also had a small unit of knights with is it a captain of the empire with the rune fang, and small like strong units like heavy cav or something like that with 1 hero can also be incredibly powerful, because those 5 basically went through my Phoenix guard like Swiss cheese.
I played the game with Vampire Counts, and the Blood Knights was that kind of same unit where if you have cavalry, infantry will not get the charge.
No.
There's just no way that the infantry unit can get a charge upon a cavalry unit. So that's why, and when you get the charge and you have like initiative is 6 or something, you get to strike first. Probably the front row won't get to beat you anything. Maybe you have impact hits, something like that. It's very powerful.
Yeah.
But it's also like a one trick. Because then when you stand there, if they come back, they die.
You really need to alpha strike. Like take them out, get out of there.
You have to pick that perfect amount of unit strength that you can take down with your 5 or 10 knights.
Yeah, because when you don't get to use the lances again, you're gonna have a bad
have a bad time.
Yeah. You really don't want to go into anything unbreakable.
Or you do as I did. I misplayed and cheated and used the lance at least once. I used the lance and where I shouldn't have.
I don't know if you actually get to countercharge the infantry either. I think
you can't countercharge infantry.
Yeah.
But infantry can countercharge you. So that's the more usual way, that when you have a cavalry unit and you go against infantry can countercharge you, but you couldn't have done it. And that's 9 of 10 that cavalry will win over infantry. You have to do a really long bomb to fail with cavalry. Okay, so that's what I had thought about what the battle report. Some short thoughts about it. If you don't feel that you have anything more that you want to fill in, otherwise we will go to the user comments and the rule mistakes.
Yeah. Let's learn.
How long is the list? How long is the list?
Okay.
This isn't a perfect game, that's for sure.
No,
but it was our second game. So.
Yeah. was a fun game.
But we are very happy for the comments, and
Yeah.
we're gonna learn. So first off, we have Nemo No Name.
Yeah.
He
We're gonna
said-
slaughter these names, by the way. So
No, Nemo No Name. I should be able to say.
yeah.
Someone has like a lot of numbers and just letters. They I will slaughter.
Mm.
If a single model unit marches, they cannot do the final free turn, and they also only on a normal move, and also cannot flame. So this was a unit that made it was like a dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where you and I think that the issue here was that it was Behemoth. The lumbering rule gives that you can do a pivot, but you can't march.
Now,
Unless you're marched, you are allowed to make that like turn.
Yeah.
But we misplayed both aspects of that.
Yeah.
Because you marched and you both used the shooting attack that was the breath weapon, and you did the lumbering part.
yeah. So if you have lumbering, if you haven't marched, charged, or fled, you're allowed to do a normal move and then a 90-degree pivot. I did a march move, pivoted, and then I used my breath weapon, which I cannot do. So I basically killed all of your handgunners with that. So yeah.
And Alex Madrigal 9703 had the same comment that you need to keep in mind what the dragon does.
I kind of think that's a safety valve for flying, because now that I know that they cannot do all that fancy stuff, they become much less versatile.
Yeah.
I think flying is like semi-fixed from that alone.
Yeah, I mean, in 8 they could march and do the breath weapon, and that made them incredibly strong. Not being able to do that in Old World is that's a big difference.
Yeah, and especially like not being able to do the turn, because that means it's so much harder to get into an arc where you are allowed to charge something that you want to get into combat with.
Yeah, it is. You can still wheel, like do the wheel move,
but that costs
you
the
cost
movement.
points.
Cost
Yeah.
points. And it costs a lot too. With some units, some wheels, many inches go away fast. When you do a wheel.
Especially when they are so short. Like
So we got the same comment about the pivot from Tommykin 911, but he also wanted to remember or point out that when you do a failed charge, you only move the dice roll, so you don't add the movement.
Yeah, we've played that wrong for sure.
Yeah.
But you need to move the full distance of the move, right? So if you roll a 5 and a 3, then you need to roll
the highest
5.
dice.
Yeah. And if you have Swift Stride, you add the second dice roll.
I think it says may.
Okay, so you need to roll the first die, the full move.
Swift Strike, I wouldn't take poison on. Maybe
we need to check that.
Maybe you can take up the Swift Stride rule while we take the next comment, because he also wanted to say that you forgot about +1 for closed order in a combat, and that's remembering that closed order get 1 combat resolution, and you also have a thing where you stood on a hill. You get points for standing on a hill. That was also a miss.
Yeah, but the thing on the hill is that in order for you to claim that bonus, the entire first row, fighting row, needs to be on the hill. And I think that in the case where the eagle was fighting, we canceled each other out.
Yeah, but there's a lot of those combat resolutions that it's easy to forget, and I forget closed order all the time.
Yeah, same.
I think so, but most, at least the matchups we have played, most of the time both units do have closed order, so it's just like even Steven. But I did check the Swift Side rule, and it says that you may add a d6 to your pursuit, flee, or charge roll.
Yeah.
But in that case, you do that when you roll, so then you have to add it. You can't choose after you've rolled it. It's not worded like that, because then you already used your may to roll it.
Okay.
In the first place.
So if you roll a 5-3 on the first, then you pick the 5, and then you add the Swift Stride, and if that was like a 2, so that you made a failed charge, then you go 7 forward. Yeah,
but you could, if you roll like 1-1 and you realize I'm not gonna make it either way, then you could say decline to use my D6, and then you can use the lowest.
That's a clever mechanic.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. But if you already roll it, then you're on your own. Then you have to go with it.
Yeah.
Then we also have a comment regarding the Griffin banner. So the Griffin banner, where you get combat resolution. So Jonas, you have reread this rule about the Griffin banner. How is it stated and what does it do?
It is stated that you get to add +2 to your combat resolution instead of merely +1 for each additional rank behind the first fighting rank. And in my mind, I kind of read that like it substitutes the actual rules text for what my mind like thinks is a shorter, like multiply the ranks by 2.
Yeah.
So you get if I have 2 combat ranks, then I would get +1 for each of those, and with the Griffin banner I would get ×2 instead. And I don't know how it works actually.
But I think it is. I think it was. That's how I read it too. That you instead of getting 1 bonus for a rank, you get 2.
Yeah. So you just double your rank bonus.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 ranks, you get 4.
Yeah. And that was like my trick with that unit, because I wanted to have. And now knowing that closed order also, or remembering that closed order, it would be closed order 1, and then you would have 2 ranks +4, and then you have the standard bearer, you're +6, battle standard bearer +7 static.
But you only
and then a dragon in the rear and everything.
But you only get 1 banner. Even I don't think that you get them separately.
Yeah, you actually do. I checked that. You get for battle standard and from regular standard.
As
they count separately.
They count separately.
But if you have multiple units with standards, so you have like the detachment, which I made a mistake, and I should probably mention it. When I built the list, I put a standard in the detachment unit as well, and they are not allowed to take it.
No. Yeah, but it's a little bit hard on the when you have to do the paper and pen. We have been used having so great tools and programs that tell you do this wrong, you do this wrong. So doing the list with paper and pen and the computer is hard.
You do it in like Excel. Battlescribe just says, but you can't use this, you can't do that.
Yeah, but there are kind of good tools actually. Like there's this tool, New Recruit, has support for the old world, and then you have the old world builder. Also good.
They are getting there.
Yeah.
But when I did my first list, it was with Excel, and it was much harder than I was used to.
Yeah, I think the old world builder is definitely getting there. Now they're starting to get all the rules and stuff as well. If they can just get the like characteristics for all the units, that would be amazing. Because that is what takes most time. Like I'm gonna fight with my Phoenix Guard against your knights. Oh, what the weapon skill do I have? Because you haven't learned all of that yet. So that takes a lot of time now.
We have a good thing for all the Empire players, and it is Pavostroski 6151. I don't think that you need to declare if you are using ballistic skill or engineer for the reroll before you reroll artillery die. If you do the misfire, you just use the ballistic skill. And that's true. I reread the rule. It doesn't say that you have to pick before, as it did in 8th edition. So here if you pass the misfire, then you're fine to use the ballistic skill. You don't have to choose beforehand.
That's a big improvement to the engineer. That was the biggest problem with them beforehand. I always used them for my Hellfire volley gun, and then if they didn't misfire, you felt a bit sad because I feel like I used something I didn't need.
And you have the Chaos Dwarfs. They didn't need to pick. So the Chaos Dwarf could just roll, and then I pick which one I wish to use. So it was often a little bit unfair when he did so.
I did read it, but I didn't like fully comprehend if that was how it actually worked. So I didn't want to like make a mistake and like get one up on Mons because I didn't know.
Reading rules is like reading law books. So I think that he's correct. That's what I read. I feel like you don't have to state before. So if you fail the misfire, then you re-roll the misfire. If you pass, so you don't have to do a misfire, you can use his ballistic skill.
then it's well worth his like 45-50 points that the engineer costs.
Yeah.
Empire has so many good cheap characters.
Yeah. I think they
Engineer
are
and the
super fun
warrior
to build.
priest and the 2 different warrior priests even.
Yeah.
Priest of Ulrich and the priest of Sigmar.
Yeah,
right?
Sigma.
Yeah.
Yeah, both are great.
Yeah.
And then we have a little small but still important. When you shot at the dragon with the Hellblaster, you forget that dragon is large target, so you don't have any penalties for cover or such. And you can use line of sight over other things.
Yeah.
So that's good to remember when you're shooting at large target. Throw the cover rule away.
Yeah. That was the same in 8 as well.
Yeah. And this is a comment from one of those with a lot of numbers. So it's Ja 37D34. And then we have this is an important one. We have 2 people who have commented. Eduard Dolan 2787. I'm sorry. And then Skarnak 1. A wizard cannot do the spell if he is in combat.
Yeah.
That's huge, actually.
That's huge.
That's huge.
That's huge. And when I read it, and I was like, wait, check the rules, and they're right.
Yeah, I had missed that totally, and that changes the game quite a bit. Both that you want your opponent's wizard to be in combat, so you can't dispel, but also that you don't want your wizard in combat.
But if you have like a level 4 wizard,
Yeah.
you never want him in combat, because you want him to be able to dispel.
Yeah, but
Most
if you kit him like assailment monster slayer dude, then maybe you want him in combat. But I agree with you. Most times you probably
Most
don't.
times. If you have put the money or put the points in a level 4, the money. If you put the points in a level 4, some armies they are cheap. But for some armies, they are a serious investment. They can't have him in combat if they can't use the spell.
I think that's probably the most relevant for Warriors of Chaos, because their wizards can have like chaos armor, and or can get really beefed up.
Yeah.
But there are some assailment spells that are interesting. So I can see that you have a combat wizard, but I have a hard time seeing that you have a combat wizard that is level 4.
Yeah, so that, but then if he isn't level 4, then it might be the case that when you randomize spells, you don't get the one that you actually want.
Yeah. You need to choose the right magics. I think the dragon mage on high elves is a good example. He is riding on dragon. He can fight. He's a level 2 wizard. He's like the perfect combat mage.
Yeah.
But for level 4, you probably wanna most times keep out of combat, because I think it might be more important to ensure that your opponent doesn't get any spells off than it is to make sure that you get any off. Like,
I think that there are 2 different types of spell casting. Either you want to be in the midst of the battlefield, and then you want to be level 4, dispelling everything that comes onto you.
Yeah.
Or you want to use the, what's it called? Reserve moves.
Yeah.
To like cast magic, and then reserve move out of range for the opponent.
Yeah.
Like use big template spells, magical vortex.
I saw that's a valid tactic where you put a vortex spell and then you take your wizard and
just out
flee,
of dodge,
so they can't dispel the vortex.
Because then vortexes are really strong.
Yeah.
And I think one big difference between like 8 and Old World, in 8 you can usually have like a level 4 wizard that stands in like a health battery, and it stands quite far back, but it can still cast a lot of spells and it can dispel, because a lot of things like 24 inches is like minimum range in 8th edition. Like most spells are around there. A lot of like 36 and stuff.
Or fewer, or like lower range.
Yeah, but right now they're very short. Like most spells have like a range of 12, maybe like 9. So you can't really do that anymore where you have a wizard in a health battery, because then it can't reach anything.
You mean like in 8th edition?
In 8th edition you often did that, but I tried that now in the Old World, and I realized that I can't reach anything that I want. So it was like useless. You need to have your wizard, maybe not in combat, but it needs to be somewhere in the middle where you can reach stuff. Otherwise it's just dead. It's just dead in the water.
I kind of look at when I build lists now, I will try to have the level 4 on either a horse or even more preferably like a monstrous cav, so they get a little bit more toughness and wounds.
Yeah.
I think the absolute premium is the Bretonia name character.
Royal Pegasus. You have Royal Pegasus you can have on the Prophetess, and that's a super good example of a powerful, because she will get skirmish, she will fly, she will get more toughness and wounds. So that there you have in my book, a super wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have it as well for the Dark Elves, Dark Pegasus.
Mhm.
That you can do the same thing with. It's really good.
And the Dark Pegasus, it's Dark Pegasus then is monstrous cav. So you get skirmish too.
Yeah, and it has fly as well.
Yeah,
So
that is nasty.
I don't think you really need fly. Like just having skirmish so that you get 360 degree. That's the important thing.
That's the important thing. But the caveat being able to fly over stuff, it's like
it's that extra sprinkle on top.
Yeah, pricken över it,
yeah,
as we should have said in Swedish. The dot above the eye.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Next one, Pepetis 7943. Countercharge. You cannot do countercharge against infantry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's true. We have read it too as well. So it's good to remember. Countercharge is something you can do against chariots and cavalry, but not infantry.
Yeah.
We did have one interaction during the game where you did the triple charge against my Demigryph Knights.
Yeah.
In that scenario, you had your flying chariot at a range of 8, and you had your Illyrian Reavers at a range of 2, basically in base contact. I don't know if my Demigryph Knights would have been allowed to countercharge the Skycutter, because I think that you count against the Skycutter's movement, and it only has movement 2, even though it has fly at the same time.
Yeah, that's one of the difficult rules, because it says if you're outside of the charging target's movement characteristic, you're allowed to do a counter charge, as long as everything else applies. But in the Skycutter's case, it only has like a very low movement, but fly 10. And in that case, you probably should be allowed to counter charge, because fly isn't their movement characteristic. That's only an add-on. But we played it as you couldn't, but in retrospect, you probably can.
Yeah, intuitively, I would say that the fly, you should be able to substitute the movement characteristic with fly.
Yeah.
But that isn't actually the rules.
No.
The rules text is check the model's movement characteristic, and if you are outside of that movement characteristic, then you can counter charge.
Yeah, that's one of the nitty-picky things, and I think it will get FAQ'd, because I think that the intention is that a fly unit, if you were able to countercharge it, you have to be outside of its fly range. But as rule is stated, I would say that as it is right now, you can, because their move characteristics sometimes are very low.
Yeah, it doesn't say that it substitutes the movement characteristics.
We reread that rule, and both me and Jonas had a more less friendly discussion, I would say. When we off camera,
heated.
Yeah, when we off camera and discuss rules, it becomes a little bit more nasty than this. But
it's like who can win the rules argument?
Yeah. But we like those rules arguments. And we have Andoran 7 wanted to remember that Reavers can't charge if they fail a fear test. And this is important when you have a unit that has fear. You should have the opponent do the fear test, because if you have unit strength that is higher and they fail the fear test, they can't charge you.
Yeah. And that's one of the things we discussed before Oldworld was released. I thought that was really strong. You didn't think it was strong, that change. But I'm still not sure if it is or not. But we have discussed that before, so it's a bit weird that we forgot about it.
I think that mathematically, since most units have so high leadership values, it is less than 60% likely to come into play.
But
it probably is. But when it happens,
it's a pain.
It can be devastating.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we discussed a lot before. If a unit makes a failed charge, it moves directly towards the target a distance equal to the result. Yeah, this is the same. So remember that you move the charge roll, not the
dice.
Yeah, and it's Toffer 1874. We also have Daniel McCoy 7331, who states, the Phoenix Guard ceremonial halberds are AP -1 and armor bane 1. So those 2 6s would have been armor pen 2.
That might be right. I know that they are +1 strength,
Yeah.
they're magical attacks, and they're armor piercing.
They are Sermon Halberds, combat, strength +1, armor piercing 1, armor bane 1, fighting extra ranks,
Yeah.
magical attacks,
Yeah.
and 2 hands.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's probably like one of the best weapons in the game.
It's a very good weapon.
It's a
Like
good
standard weapon.
It's
or
very
like,
good.
It's not
Yeah.
standard, but still.
Yeah, I forgot. I remembered most of the rules, but I missed the armor bane for sure.
Yeah.
But it's important.
Yeah, but I think it's hard to remember what has armor bane and what hasn't.
Yeah.
I think that's difficult, but
Yeah.
it's important to remember.
It's
I
important to
kind
know.
of wish I had dice that were like on the 5 sides there were one color, and then on the crit they had a different, so that my stupid brain doesn't like forget the 6s whenever they come up.
You can have other symbols. Games Workshop have a lot of symbols, but maybe they
but
should
the
be even
symbols
more
are not
obvious.
like it needs to like.
Yes,
hurt my
the
brain.
armor bane rule is a little bit hard to remember, even if it's up.
You kind
I
of
think
remember killing
I think it's natural to forget negative rules. So the one animosity, for example.
Yeah.
When you play orcs and goblins, you forget animosity all the time, but it's because something's that it's bad for you. So then you like filter it out and you forget about it.
You think about the good stuff.
You think about the
Yeah.
good stuff, and I think that's just a natural thing that a human brain does. You think
Yeah.
of the good stuff. So armor bane should be something that you remember, but it is hard to remember
Yeah.
for some reason. The Silver Arrow 77 have a couple of comments. One of them was when you cast a spell from the dragon.
Yeah.
You cast it backwards,
Yeah, I
and
did.
it was either it was that you felt like the hex spell you could cast it backwards, or that you felt that he was a skirmish unit, but he isn't allowed to.
No, we realized that afterwards. We were unsure about hex spells. We knew that like magic missiles and all that stuff could only be cast in the forward arc,
No.
but we were unsure about hex spells, so we did definitely misplay that.
Yes.
Yeah, and an enhancement as well.
Yeah, but it feels like a large target sitting on a dragon should be able to turn around,
Yeah.
cast a spell, but he
We
can't.
wish.
He can't.
No.
And he also pointed out that the steam cannon can do a grape shot.
Oh, that's super useful.
And I would agree with him because I reread the rules, and it says that it use the fire cannon rule. That's what it says. And grape shot is under that rule. It's not like grape shot is its separate rule. It's something that you can do when you do a fire cannon. And it said instead of firing normally, cannon crew can opt to fire grape shot, and then you have the grape shot rule. So I would agree that the tank should be able to
Okay.
Yeah,
do a
that
grape
makes
shot.
it a lot stronger, I think.
Yeah, and like grape shot in 8th edition, it wasn't really a thing you did. Like it was kind of fun if you had the iron blaster, which could do that huge strength 10 grape shot. But since you needed to roll to hit after you rolled the artillery dice to get out how many shots you got. So if you roll a 10, then even with your ballistic skill, you were only likely to hit like 3 or 4 attacks.
Yeah.
And then you also need to roll to wound on that. It was never really viable. It was just better to just do the cannon shot and then get the multiple wounds.
Yeah.
I disagree. I used it
Yeah.
quite a lot, especially with Empire. Like a lot of people use War Machine Hunters, and that's usually small, weak units like War Beasts and stuff. Shoot them with a grape shot, panic, and they're out of there.
But I think now it's even more important. Where you
now
don't
it's
have
much better.
Now it's much better when you don't have the D6. So now it's even more interesting to do a grape shot sometimes.
Yeah,
Just roll the artillery dice. You get 6 hits. That's 6 rolls to wounds.
yeah. And cannons are super nerfed. Not only are they only like, is it D3 plus 1 wounds?
D3 plus 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't have that massive AP anymore. So you still
No.
get a lot of armor saves.
Yeah.
They have like AP minus 3, I think. But even if you have 2+, you still have a save.
Yeah.
You didn't have that before.
I
Before you were just
I
just
really
dead.
don't think you should use them against knights and stuff. But I think
Yeah.
they are still like valid against monsters most of the time.
You don't. At least you don't need to have 2 cannons. If you have a cannon, you need 1, and then we do something specific. But like before, when you felt like I want to have 3 cannons.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore.
Now, before monsters had like 5, maybe 6 wounds.
Yeah.
Now they can have like 9.
Yeah.
And the cannons are nerfed in number of wounds they do.
Yeah.
So you have to shoot them like 4 times to kill them. So it's a lot different now.
And that was actually all the comments from the second battle report.
Yeah.
Since this is the first time that we try out this format, I wanted to go through the comments from the first battle report as well.
Yeah.
And we have like it's Sunday, and we released the video on Friday, so it's about the first 24 hours. That's the comments that we are going through.
48,
not quite 48 hours, because it takes some time to do the script and write them down, answer them. So I looked at the comments, and we haven't taken all the comments after that, but the first 24 hours, if you make a comment, it will probably go into a podcast, and we will discuss it in a similar manner as this. And
if it's like relevant. We get like the last video right now has like 120 comments. Yeah. So we can't do all of them.
No, but it's also, that's one of the big things that I want to have the comments discussed.
Yeah, I agree.
We are very happy for all the comments that are made. And of course, we are also super happy for all the good feedback, like that many people like the format and such, and that's we're also happy for. And we're also happy for taking critique, like we shouldn't complain about dice. That's something that we should remember. Yeah. I'm looking at
or like shaking the camera.
That's things that we take. We read them, and we will take them seriously.
Yeah, and have patience while we learn in the game. Like you are.
Yeah.
But I want to touch a bit about. Now I'm going into complaining, but about the dice rolls. I think one of the things that I like about the way we do battle reports is that we have emotion.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people that do battle reports, it's just like they don't show any large emotions for like when they do something really good or something really bad, but we lean into that. Like we can be really happy, we can be quite salty and a bit pissed off. And I think that's good. Like you don't want to see like robots playing. You want to see like people. And we are friends. We're having fun. Like when we're salty, we're not like actually angry. It's just like it's part of the game.
It's part of the game.
I think it's fun.
I do think about it when I play. I think I often think about not being too negative.
Yeah.
Because it could. It depends on who I'm playing.
Yeah.
I think it's because we play each other so often, so even if I'm salty, Mons isn't getting salty, he's actually getting happy.
Yeah.
and it goes both ways. If I were to play in a tournament, I would never play and say the things that I do on this channel against you two and also Martin.
Yeah.
Because you know that it is a little bit of fun. But if I were to play a new opponent, I wouldn't say bad things or complain. But we do that because we kind of do it because we know that the other one will like to hear.
But I think that is the important point. Like we act in a certain way against each other, and then we can, when something goes really bad for you, I can be really happy about that. But if I'm playing at a tournament, I don't do that.
No,
I don't do that.
No. So that's the thing that maybe isn't. I do agree with all the comments about this, that when you play an opponent, you shouldn't complain. You should think about what you're saying, because it might make the experience for the opponent not as good. But in our case, it actually makes that the opponent gets more happy if I'm sad.
Yeah, we enjoy the game more when it's being played that way. But we have to be really careful when we convey it. Like we don't go to tournaments and like, you guys, they really suck, and like celebrate everything when they lose. And we don't do that. With other people.
No. But it's just it's in our it's the group of us four who really can hammer on that.
But that kind of goes into like how the game and hobby should be. Like the hobby should be a place where you can feel free, let out emotions, let out some steam. And
but you have to be really careful when you are at tournaments.
Yeah.
Like you can't negatively affect someone else's experience that you don't know.
Exactly.
So then you have to put the happy face on. You have to be happy, and you can't celebrate your wins too much.
And that we agree on.
Yeah,
totally,
that
we agree. We agree on that. But what we do on this channel, we allow ourselves to both enjoy the victory and be angry when we fail.
Yeah, and enjoy the defeats
Yeah.
of our opponents.
Yeah.
What is best in life?
Yeah.
What do you say? The greatest pleasure is enjoying someone's misery. Well, I don't.
Yeah,
It's
but
a Swedish expression.
But it's like it's not that important that I win, but it's very important that you lose.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Conan has a quote on that.
Yeah.
What is best in life?
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that.
Okay, so now sadly Martin isn't here. He was playing the Skaven in the battle report one, but
Yeah.
we're going to quickly touch on the comments from that video as well. And there we had the Stormvermin has strength 3 and they wound on 4+ on the Black Orcs with halberds, but if they do, they don't have a 4+ save because halberds require 2 hands.
He was using the
Okay.
shield.
He was-
the dirty sheet.
Yeah, he was using the shield, and now it's a great time to be actually salted because he's here.
But how does that work? I kind of realized that you wouldn't get a parry save, but
No.
in 8th edition it used to be that if you had heavy armor and then you had a shield, and even if you had another weapon which didn't allow you to use the shield, you still got the bonus to the armor save.
Yeah, you did get that in 8th edition. I can check the rule for
We
shield.
don't have parry here, so
Yeah.
if you were to get armor save here, you would get everything that the shield actually gives you
Yeah.
here. So I would say, without even looking, that when it states required 2 hands, it will take away the
Yeah.
shield
I-
and what the
I
shield
think
bonus does.
is probably the correct way. And that is the intuitive way as well.
Mm.
If you have 2 hands, you can't really use the shield. But
Yeah, it says that a model that uses shield cannot use alongside a weapon with it. It requires 2
Yeah.
special rules. A shield can still be used against wound caused by shooting or magic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes, we have Amdor who pointed out, and you and Martin also commented on this afterwards, that you can't put the screaming bell within clan rats
When you deploy.
it can't be part of that unit. So the screaming bell is one unit, and clan rats is different units. And that's a thing he did because he played 8th edition, that you deploy them in a group, but here you don't.
Oh,
The
it's the
screaming bell
rule
is-
push the long or something like that.
You don't have the push.
Yeah, but
okay,
it
so just-
yeah, but it has a rule called push the long. I'm 90% sure about this. And that means that you need a unit strength of something
To push it.
Yeah, I believe so.
Screaming bell is no longer deployed in a unit. You have to place it at a chariot and keep close to pushing unit as such. Also, you no longer declare the point where the abomination goes. Oh,
it's probably in the Ravenous Horde. No, it's Skaven has its own.
the difference, I think, is that it is a separate unit.
Yeah.
So it isn't deployed within the unit of clan rats. It should be either in front, or the side.
Because it says here, our mobile altars are pushed along or carried. There is a rule called pushed along or something like that. So I think we have to check that before
But-
we...
It's probably in the Skaven rulebook.
They have it as well for Dark Elves. It should be in the...
It's probably in the Dark Elves rulebook then.
No, maybe.
But yeah, that's probably the case. I don't have any reasons to doubt that it actually.
You could, since you don't have to be 1 inch apart, you can deploy them very, very close to each other. But then you will make movement much harder.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in that case, they can be deployed. They couldn't just be deployed as 1 unit.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference.
Yeah, but I think we also made a mistake there because in the end, Martin made a charge against my BSB. And
Yeah.
then he charged with his Screaming Bell as well. and that has rule pushed along, and that needs a certain unit strength to be able to be pushed.
Yeah.
And it didn't have enough unit strength, so it shouldn't actually been able to charge. And one other thing that I saw, that you need to charge at least 3 inches to get impact hits.
Yeah.
And that's something we also misplayed. He charged shorter. He charged 2 inches and got impact hits.
But that was your first game.
Yeah, that was me and Martin's first game. Yeah.
So I think we're gonna have a couple of them. I think we had. I think we have a comment on that too.
Yeah.
But now comes one of those little bits of discussion where we have G Andorian for 6. For the first failed charge of the Black Horse because they got stuck, GV has fact that those charge wheel as long as they don't finish your move in your unit, you can pass through it. I actually think that he is wrong here and you played it right. So when you had a unit of Black Orcs, and then you had a giant in front, and you said you couldn't wheel past the giant.
Yeah.
And that's the right play.
But you're allowed to have the first rank go through the...
You are not allowed to have the first rank to go through unless it's a pivot. And if it's a wheel, you are allowed the back ranks to go through, but not the front rank.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
This is a tricky one. I can read the FAQ. When a unit performs a maneuver, can its front edge pass through another unit? The answer from GV, no. The only exception to this is when a unit pivots. And there's a difference between wheeling and pivoting. A pivot, then you have the center of the unit and you turn around that center.
Yeah.
A wheel, you will fix one point on the edge and you will turn from that. That's the difference. And pivots happens, for example, when you have open order. So when you have a unit that has open order, you can move and then you can do a free pivot at the end. So that's
or like lumbering.
Like lumbering. So that's a pivot. But when you wheel, it doesn't count as a pivot. So I think you played correctly. And if anyone has a different opinion, bring it. Bring it.
Yeah, voice it.
Golgrim, I'm only 20 min in, but here's a couple of things you missed about orcs and goblins so far.
20 minutes in.
Orc shamans have the mob special rule, meaning that your spells were 5+ to cast, not 4+. Orcs have warband rule, so they can re-roll charges. So 2 things, and they're both true. So when you have a unit strength or more, and you put your shaman within him, you
unit
get
strength of what?
10.
10 or more.
10. You get +1 to cast.
That's really good.
That's
I
good.
didn't know that. Yeah.
And also they have warband, so you get to re-roll failed charges.
That is also very, very good.
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah.
It's not often that you misplay.
Yeah. But I
against yourself.
No, that does. I should have misplayed some rules that was the other way.
Yeah.
But I think also one of the problems, like how we play, we want to showcase a lot of armies. You don't get that much playtime with every army, at least not in the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's a reason as well, I think, if I'm making excuses.
Yeah, that's an excuse, and we don't have excuses here. No. It was wrong play,
yes.
And next time you can lay on the cheese and do the re-roll and have +1 to cast.
Now I need to play them again.
Yeah. Skadanik 1. In the first combat between the trolls and the Hell Pit Abomination. Okay, this is it is a scenario where you had trolls and you had one of the trolls were outside fighting rank.
Yeah.
And then we all have to remember that he only gets a supporting attack.
Yeah. We did that mistake the first combat,
Yeah.
and then we realized the second combat.
Yes.
But I know that we definitely did that. He was not in base contact with the hell pit, and I still rolled all attacks. So then I did a mistake in my favor.
Yes.
So that's
You-
that's precisely what you
+1.
wanted.
And he also said that both Hell Pit and Giant have stomps,
Yeah.
and now stomps works against everything.
Yeah.
Except beam-offs, right?
No, it's just extra attacks. I believe it works against
I
everything.
don't think you can stomp beam-offs.
I think you can stomp a behemoth. I think you can stomp everything.
We check
Check.
the stomp. But that was also one of those things that we forgot the first combat, but we realized the second combat, or one of the later ones at least.
While you check the stomp rule, Skarnak 1. The orc player re-rolled the break test into 4. Now normally that would have been give ground, but the Skaven player forget that he got a screaming bell roll all enemy units within 18 inches -1. And that's also one of those things that it was the Skaven player who he had a better thing but he got misplayed and forget about it.
Yeah.
And those things can really bite you in the ass
Behind.
if you forget a lot of those things that actually give you good things. So that's something that Martin should remember when he actually rolled that.
Yeah, this is the difference between stomps for behemoths and stuff. There is a difference. You can use stomps against behemoths, but behemoths has a rule called thunder stomp, and that makes it so that their stomp attacks have an AP of -2. However, the thunder stomp rule cannot be used against behemoths. So then you don't get armor piercing. So you can stomp behemoths, but you cannot thunder stomp behemoths.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So that is the difference.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Also, remember skirmishes have a 360 degree, so you can't hide behind them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it was
that's for
also
the-
Skarnak 1 who pointed that out.
Yeah, the Asian assassins that wanted
Yeah.
to come in and hunt war
Yeah,
machines.
Yeah.
and he can just go crazy with the skirmish rule.
Yeah.
And that's
Kind of
also
want to briefly mention skirmishers. I think
Yeah.
that's probably one of the strongest rules in whole old world.
Yeah. And you're gonna see that also in the next battle reports, how effective cavalry with skirmish are. Like their threat range is immense. Because wherever you are, they can just come at you. I think skirmish is very strong.
Yeah,
Very
it
strong.
just feels so good. Like Pegasus Knights,
yeah.
I think they look absolutely fantastic. I don't see any fault at all with them.
I would like I said, I would like to play a level 4 prophetess on a royal Pegasus and just go crazy.
Go ham.
Go ham.
I just think you bring like the lances that the Bretonnia has on them and just go and kill stuff.
Yeah, I think Pegasus Knights.
Yeah.
Skirmishers. Like a block of
And,
maybe 6 of them.
Yeah. Beastman also has those weird ones. Like you never saw them in 8th edition. Centigores.
Centigore, the ones that are drunk. They need to roll on drunken table.
Yeah.
And that
I don't-
might be the guys I'm talking about here. But it's
Okay.
bullshit.
Skirmish is a very powerful rule and very both who had the skirmish unit and if you play against it, remember that you can't hide.
Yeah.
They see everything. And it was actually the last comment. So we've gone through the rules mistake that we gotten from the first 24 hours on the second battle report and all of them from the first battle report.
Yeah. But good to remember, we're not only going to talk about rules mistakes. Like,
Yep.
do we have a comment that that is valuable in any way? We will take it up in this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be really fun to like read some comments regarding deployment, regarding like tactical decisions.
The list
Like,
building.
did we make like it's subjective, like there's no objective truth, like this was the correct way to play, but it would be nice to get that discussion in as well.
I don't remember. We had some of those kind of comments as well. I only for this episode I picked specifically rules mistakes.
Yeah.
But I think that's good because we are learning.
We are in a learning
and
stage.
everyone else is also
Yeah.
learning the
Yeah,
games.
and we hope that you get something out of this too. That some of you picked up some rules. That's how that works. And that's what we hope for with this podcast.
Yeah.
And if anyone, if you have any questions and anything, just leave a comment and we will take it up. And I hope that you will be back for the next podcast. But for now, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you the next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.